Hey everybody, Dr. Zeke here, and today we're going to talk about one of the most common issues for chronic insomnia individuals. And when you say chronic insomnia, these are individuals that are having trouble falling asleep or they're waking up in the middle of the night and they can't go back to bed. And this happens multiple nights per week and it affects them in the daytime. And with this, that time period can last anywhere from 6 months or longer. And a lot of times, there's habits that they create that create these long-term habits. Let's talk about the four pillars so I can show you where this fits in. So at the very top, you have sleep pressure and circadian rhythm. These are the foundations of your sleep. So if you got your sleep pressure checked, your circadian rhythm, there is very little to minimal stress. You will fall asleep fast, go to bed, wake up with energy because your hormones, everything's synced up, ready to go for your wake up time. But on the bottom are kind of our destabilizers at the foundation. You have physical stressors. So think about like your blood sugar, sleep issues related to breathing conditions, inflammatory conditions are massive in this category. Toxic metal exposure, so many things in that physical stressor category that biohackers have created technology to help reduce the stress inside your body so you can allow sleep pressure and circadian rhythm to do their job. And then you have the mental stressor side. This is kind of the unsexy side of sleep coaching because people don't want to fix what's here or change the way they perceive something because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of awareness. It's stopping yourself from doing something that the brain is so used to doing. The brain is hardwired to do three things: survival, energy efficiency, and pain avoidance. So when you try to change your mental thought process, you are going against the water here. You're swimming upstream. And I will have multiple videos in my mental stressor category in my YouTube channel. So be sure to follow if you haven't already. I really appreciate you watching this. And don't forget, if you have any questions on anything that I go over, shoot a comment below. I'd love to answer them. Now, moving on to mental stress, it comes in three factors. These are the three Ps of insomnia. And they start with precipitating factors, predisposing factors, and perpetuating factors. Let's talk about precipitating factors. These are typically temporary in nature. They last a little bit, but they do have the ability to accumulate and cause more stress, cause you to feel overwhelming. And as you can read here, these are things like stressful life events, like financial issues, job loss, or even starting a new job, divorce, relationship issues, death of a loved one, or taking care of a loved one. This can also mean severe injury or infections. It's something that leads to you going into the hospital, really, flipping your life upside down with all the paperwork, the bills, and so many other things. Traveling, moving to a new home, pregnancy, or even hormonal changes with menopause. So a lot of these can be precipitating factors. And it's also important to understand, like, one of three things can happen with these precipitating factors. And let's talk about this in the next slide. You can either start to cope with these so they get better and the stress feels less on you. You can either get rid of the stressor. So let's say your mother-in-law moves in, but now she's transferred over to your brother-in-law or a long-term care facility, and you don't have to worry about that inside your way of like things to do. Or you can get overwhelmed. This is what happens when so many things hit you at once. You're not prepared because you already had all these other things. You have kids, you have a job that's very demanding, and many other things that you would like to do. So at this point, you can do three things. You can get help from somebody. So that would be like your sister-in-law stepping in, taking care of your mother-in-law. You can reprioritize the task and think, okay, what are the things that I need to do now? These other five things, I just can't do them. Or like many of my parents, especially my mother's, we can start saying no to things. A lot of times we say yes to be helpful. We say yes to feel productive. And then when something hits us like multiple precipitating stressors and we start to get overwhelmed, we have to start saying no to things. Matter of fact, I always say if you can't say hell yes to something, you probably shouldn't do it. And so the reason why we start to do all these things is because it does lead to burnout. It does lead to you being forced to rest at the time you're needed the most. And if you don't reprioritize or start saying no to things, this is what happens. You find yourself in a state where you can't get out of bed, you are fully drained, and the body is doing what it can only do because you haven't done it yourself. And that's typically what burnout is. Now, let's look at some other stressors, right? These are predisposing factors. So if you read here, it's underlying vulnerability that makes you more susceptible to developing sleep issues. So if you woke up, let's just say you grew up with poor sleep hygiene, maybe your parents gave you a TV in your bedroom, no bedtime. You woke up, went to bed whenever you wanted to. Most of those individuals as adults have trouble sleeping. You have irregular sleep patterns. Maybe you work night shift for multiple years and your circadian rhythm is just completely off. That's a predisposing factor. Other things that are common is chronic pain, anxiety or mental health issues, respiratory problems like asthma, thyroid issues, menopause, hormonal changes. I have a great hormonal series that I'll link up there at the top that shows during the cycle as well what can happen to women's hormones that can cause you to have sleep issues as well. And then there's behavioral factors, things like worrying and rumination, or down here at the bottom, perfectionist tendencies. Like these are things that can have serious behavioral issues that can cause you to have sleep issues for longer periods of time. So let's just talk a little bit about perpetuating factors, but these are maladaptive behaviors. They're thoughts, habits that a person develops to kind of cope with poor sleep. And quite frankly, they can allow you to have sleep problems for much longer than 6 months. So it's that mindset piece, right? Individuals that are constantly catastrophizing or overestimating damage of just a poor night's sleep. You know, those individuals that if I don't sleep 8 hours, my work presentation is going to be horrible. I might get fired or a poor evaluation. And if I don't have this job, my family's going to go hungry and we're going to be poor. And then I have to move in with my parents. Like, why are we thinking about that? Like, that would make me stressed, unable to perform the next day either. Then we have those sleep related worrying or rumination, right? Bedtime anxiety is huge. People that have had poor sleep or the inability to fall asleep and have built this bedroom of frustration and stress, that's what you will associate it with. So anytime you walk by or anytime it gets close to 9:30 or 10, whatever your bedtime is, you're going to start feeling that worry and that stress. Is it going to happen today? Am I going to go to bed or am I going to stay asleep? Oh, I got a stressful day tomorrow. A lot of these things hit your brain, and these are those perpetuating factors that lead to long-term sleep issues. And then there's just other people, they blame bad sleep on daytime fatigue. Listen, there are multiple things that can cause daytime fatigue, and it can't be sleep's fault every single time. So that type of mindset needs to be worked on as soon as you're aware of it. And then, of course, we have people with those counterproductive efforts to sleep. So they're trying so hard. They know the benefits. They hear all these influencers talking about sleep. And let me just say, if you're Googling sleep or putting sleep in your Instagram algorithm, it's going to shoot back sleep things all day long. Just more stress to you. That's all I'm saying. And then lastly, there's just so many other things that are very much just bad adaptive behaviors when it comes to sleep. So one thing that I try to teach my clients is that to be healthy, sleep is a foundational skill to learn, especially as an adult that had no upbringing of good positive sleep. That's why my wife is a sleep coach. She teaches children, or actually their parents, to teach their children how to fall asleep independently without these props and things like that. So when you think about sleep, think about it in one of four categories that strongly influence your health. Number one is your diet. Number two is movement and exercise. Managing stress, which also improves sleep. Remember, it's always that destabilizer that's going to affect sleep, either your sleep pressure or circadian rhythm. And with that, you can start working with sleep. So if you are working, and this is honestly If you are working on all three of these, you are already improving sleep. Each habit with a healthy diet, movement and exercise, and managing other mental and physical stressors, you are improving sleep. You are improving the quality. You are helping the body zone out. It's just that mental effort of identifying those beliefs that deal with those perpetuating factors that are causing your sleep problems to be long term. So, when it comes down to it, I want to give you an example of a client that suffered through menopause, went through it, but at the very end of it, she was done with her hot flashes and yet still had sleep issues. And so she just kind of figured, well, this is just a new me. And it is a constant battle because that mindset piece oftentimes wants to come back. And so I almost say you're in insomnia remission. When you have had insomnia for so long, you get it treated, you're pumped up, everything's working, and then that mindset piece comes back and it puts you right back into insomnia. So most of my insomniacs, we go into remission knowing that there's a part of regression that can happen. So let's look at this client. So she was having horrible night's sleep, waking up sweaty, staying awake, very heated. She was one of the things that we started to notice was that she had a lot of polyester on, a lot of polyester bedding. And one thing about polyester, it does trap heat very well. That's why it's in bedding. That's why it's in camping gear or winter gear. So we talked about that. We talked about breathable material like cotton, linen, bamboo, things that she can layer and breathe better throughout the night if she's still having those. And she would still wake up in some night sweats from time to time. But anyways, I digress. So she was having bad night's sleep, and all she could think about is just going to bed early. She was just exhausted. She was tired, but not sleepy. That's a big differentiator. Are you tired or sleepy? So when she went to bed, and it was oftentimes 1 to 2 hours earlier, she would just stay in bed awake, thinking, just going over her day, going over just random articles because she still worked. But this led to her pulling out her phone, a book, her computer, and just started working until she did feel tired. But then what this was doing was destroying her bedroom sleep stimulus. This is dangerous. We don't want this. And with that, when she started learning more about sleep health, it led to frustrations and anxiety around that bed. And just think about it. Anytime you go into somewhere feeling frustrated or anxious and not safe, you are going to have that issue winding down to fall asleep. So this eventually led to her long-term or chronic insomnia. Now, yeah, we could have started right here, identifying just because you're tired doesn't mean you're sleeping. But what we end up having was a perpetuating factor that had built up for months to even years that we had to peel back the layers, identify what the brain and how it was feeling, rebuild this stimulus to her bedroom to allow her to feel calm, allow her to relax, and also feel safe when it comes to sleep. So this might be you. I don't know. But ask a question. If you have any comments, any questions, put them down below so I can answer them for you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. All of those help me produce more content so I know what you're interested in. But like I said, I'm Dr. Zeke Medina. I'm a pharmacist and adult sleep coach, and I've been helping clients for over 10 years get off of sleep medications and regain the sleep the way our body intended, naturally and drug-free. So if you have any questions, drop a follow, send me a comment. I'll talk to you all later. Take care.